Welcome to Cues on the Move. We are honored and proud to usher in Black History Month. We honor the contributions and achievements of Black Americans who have shaped our community, our neighborhoods, our townships, our boroughs, in fact, the nation, with the resiliency and the brilliance of our people from all walks of life. We encourage our young people to pursue their education with the passion of their ancestors so that they can be bridge builders, focusing forward for a more just society. I am Brother Donald Williams II. I'm the proud chairman for the 2nd District Fatherhood and Mentoring Committee. Let me say up front, thank you so much to the Omega men who are doing some incredible work across Omega Nation with impacting and changing the world through mentorship. And on behalf of the 38th District Representative, Brother Delrico Gales and the brothers of Mighty 2nd District, which comprises of the 5 eastern states of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we welcome you to the 7th season of Cues on the Move. Our aim is to equip, to educate, and to empower a new generation of listeners with positive messaging on mentorship. We are excited to continue this segment that remembers, that recall, that reflects on the 2nd District history of the Fatherhood and Mentoring Committee. In a sense, our fraternity, we are Black history. Our fraternity has been mentoring for a very long time, impacting countless of young people and strengthening families across the globe. Again, we're excited to commemorate an Omega man who founded Black History Month, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. You'll hear more from my co-host and my dear friend, Jeffrey Diggs.
Yes, how are you? And we thank everyone for being here this evening. As we get ready to embark on this great evening and beginning in Black History Month 2024 and sharing some of the values that we have. And with the 2nd District, we're excited to have a brother here who can share some history and what it is that we do in the 2nd District as far as fatherhood and mentoring go, and the impact with fathers. So with that being said, I'd like to just express that with the views and opinions of our guests, there's their own. It does not reflect that of the fraternity of Omega Psi Phi Incorporated. And so with that, let's get started.
Hey, Jeff, why don't you share about Dr. Carter G. Woodson?
You know, a little bit ago, I had the pleasure of teaching at a Black college here in Maryland, a private Black college here in Maryland. And I taught a freshman course in which we used the text of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, his book, The Miseducation of the Negro.
Right.
It was very exciting teaching students with this text. Which was really exciting about all of this is with a mixed class. So even though it was a private Black college, I didn't have just Black students. It was very enlightening and fascinating to everyone. And with this book, and I would invite each and every person out there to just read this book. It's a small book, but it's a very powerful book that was written in 1933. The remarkable thing is those words are still relevant today.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's not just we as a people, but we as individuals, regardless of your race, ethnicity, but to know for yourself. I used to always explain to my students, there's history and then there's his story. and you have to know the difference. You know,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, Jeff, hey, look, I'm excited. I'm excited, Jeff. We have an Omega man in the house, as they say, that has been a community leader, an activist, an advocate. He has modeled excellence prior to me taking the baton as the chairman of the Fatherhood and Mentoring. Before I bring him on, I want to tell a story. So it was the setting was the 100th anniversary in Washington, D.C., the capital. And my daughter, Dr. Dreka Williams, now at the time she was a sophomore at Bloomsburg University, and she treated me to a day of spending a day at the 100th anniversary, and that's where we sat there and we ate lunch, and in the convention center, and our last panel discussion featured Dr. Boyce, Dominique Boyce, and my daughter looked at me and she said, "So, Dad, what are you going to do after hearing that message?" And so that's how I got into the lane of fatherhood and mentoring. It was because of the messaging from Brother Dominique Boyce. Dominique, welcome to Cues on the Move, man. Thank you for rearranging your schedule. And so glad to have you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
It's an honor to actually rearrange my schedule to be here, to be part of this during Black History Month. And so I'm honored, one, because I was the inaugural fatherhood and mentoring chair for the second district. And Brother Williams, succeeded me, and he's doing a wonderful, fantastic job. I was the fatherhood and mentoring chairman for the second district from 2010 to 2016, and pretty much my
Wow.
tenure dovetail with President Barack Obama being in the White House and everything. And so how I was able to leverage that is through my partnership and friendship with Brother Tabiti Boone. For those who don't know, he was honored as a champion of change by President Barack Obama during his first administration. There were many champions of change, but he was one of those pivotal champions of change, and he actually became the International Fatherhood and Mentoring Representative to the White House. And so we were fortunate as Omega Men to have a direct pipeline to the President of the United States, who valued fatherhood and mentoring and started a program in which he said his most important job was not being a commander in chief of the free world, but being a father to his two daughters. And so myself being a father of two boys, I took that to heart, given the challenges of Black men and being a fraternal man. At the time I was the basileus of Psi Lambda Lambda here in New York City. And I was the third bosses, and now I return. I'm currently the eighth bosses of Psi Lambda Lambda, trying to continue the work that we started. And so it was a groundbreaking partnership, not just here within the second district, but also work with the White House. So there was no established blueprint when I took this position. We set out to blaze a trail where I can pass the baton to Brother Williams. So again, I'm glad to be here tonight.
Excellent, excellent, man. What did you find when they tapped you on the shoulder? What was the environment like in the second district? And what were some of your views and strategies?
So, obviously, we fast forward, it's 2024 now. So we have all these wonderful social media aids and technology, but we didn't have that in 2010. And if we had it, it wasn't, open to the masses like it is today and everything like that too. So we found an environment where obviously we had very inspirational leaders within the organization, including Brother Boone, who was very passionate about that. Him being
Yes.
a dad, a high school dad, and going on and continue to do great things. But also too, we're meeting with folks down at the White House. We're meeting at the Congressional Black Caucus weekend. And so we were trying to put a stamp and put a mark, not only for the communities across the 5 states, but also as leaders, servant leaders, as Omega men. So that was important. So what I found back then is that the will was there, the programs were there, but they weren't being communicated to the degree that we see it now. I mean, now we have social media, we have a web page, we have a newsletter. In the beginning we had none of that, and so we had to pound the stakes in so that we can get to this point. And so basically what I use is the platform of the district meetings, the fall council, the winter council, and the district conferences, where I would go and spread the gospel and meet brothers, like-minded brothers like Brother Williams, Brother Diggs, and others. And we would exchange numbers and emails, and we would set a path. And during the weekends, myself and Brother Boone, oftentimes, we would just get in our car and go to those different states where those brothers we connected with, and we would participate in these programs of fatherhood and mentoring, and we would learn. And once we got out on the road, we'll begin to meet other individuals in Omega who was serving, the fatherhood and mentoring role, and it just continued to grow. And so that's what we do. We just set out to do that, to find out what's going on in the 5 states. I was equipped with a Excel spreadsheet so I can track the different programs, because there was no form of fashion. We had to create this landscape so that we can present it to the brothers and say, hey, we're really doing work. And what I found is that we were doing wonderful programs all over Omega land, but no one knew about it. No one knew about the programs. I mean, Maryland, where probably you guys are, was a hotbed bed of wonderful programs and everything like that too. So I spent a lot of time in Maryland as well as in Pennsylvania, but Maryland had a lot of wonderful programs going on. And so my thing was to go observe and bring back, programs and templates so that we can be replicated. And so that's what we did. We started to share these programs and do replication and be the conduit, the connector between chapters in different states, and as well as chapters in different cities, like here in New York, downstate New York City. I would connect with upstate New York, which for many people seems like another state, and so it was critical for that. And keep in mind when I said that we would jump in our car and just go. At the time, we didn't have a budget. There was no budget line. There was no money. It was just a love. So you had to love this work because there was no budget. It was only later on, I want to say towards the end of my tenure, around 2014, 2013, was where we started getting money to host events. But even then, all funds came through the Social Action Committee.
Yes.
And it was under the Social Action Committee. So I'm hopeful that Father and Mentor has his own committee in his budget line, but we didn't have a budget. It was just, you had a love for doing it. You just get in your car, you connect, and that's what we did in the early days.
Wow.
That's what we did. And so the great thing about blazing a trail and not having a blueprint to start with is that you learn to innovate. You learn to meet other brothers, and we were able to connect with brothers in the other districts. The first district. I'm here in New York City, so I was able to travel to the first district. I was able to travel to the third district, and then what formed was that international committee under the leadership of Robert Fairchild, Brother Robert Fairchild, a former Grand Officer, as well as S. Earl Wilson. They became the lead at the international level for the fatherhood mentoring. And so what came out of that is that we had a fatherhood mentoring retreat put in place for all the leads for the different districts in Omega. And so we were able to meet finally and like I said, share further institutional knowledge about this work, and at the same time connect on a personal basis And out of that came the first ever Omega Psi Phi Fatherhood and Mentoring newsletter. That showed not just what we were doing in the second district, but what we was doing across the country. And so we continue to grow and also connect the fabric of Omega and the work that we were doing in the communities.
Man, what an insight. What an insight, Yeah. And I love what you said. It's a labor of love.
It's a labor of love where there's no money involved. It's a labor of love. It's sort of like coaching. You really love it. You can start, well, you got to start out, volunteer, no money, such and such. Let's see if you're gonna last and everything. And so I lasted for 6 years, before I passed the baton to you, Brother Williams. But like I said, we had the benefit of having a supportive district representatives and a president. And so that was important because we were close to Washington, D.C. in terms of our leadership. I served in this role under 3 different administrations. Brother Hicks, district rep, was the last. But, I started out under Brother Rogers, Kenneth Rogers, everything, who tapped me. So I served under 3 different DRs and everything. And so that was key. Because one of the things as we began to grow, chapter began to gravitate towards the work, and they started reaching out to me. We started collaborating, and so one of my biggest successes, besides partnering with President Obama and the White House on their Fatherhood Mentoring initiative, is that we were able to have our first inaugural Fatherhood Mentoring forum or conference in the second district, and we held that in Pennsylvania, and that was co-hosted by Mu Omega and Zeta Iota chapter. And so we were able to secure funding, and the funding was through picking up the phone and contacting brothers who were in legislative offices, who were elected officials in New Jersey and Maryland and New York, and working with the social action chair to put it together, and it became successful. And I believe I shared some pictures of that first inaugural, and that was June of 2013.
Yeah, let's go to the pictures.
Let's go to the picture.
There we go. Hey, tell us about this picture.
And so this is a proclamation we received from the legislative body in Pennsylvania. And so these were members, if I serve me correctly, I see Milton Harrison. He was our DR at
34.
the time. He was, he was in the middle. And that was Brother Kendu Small, who was a social action chair to the right of him. And that was Brother Smallwood, member of Mu Omega, but he served on many committees in Omega. And that was, I believe that's Hicks to the left of him, or to the right of Brother Smallwood, and then myself. And so that was a proclamation we received, from that state legislation in Pennsylvania for the work that we did. So that's picture number 1.
And congratulations. Let's go to the next one. Yeah.
And so as part of this event, we had fatherhood mentoring organizations from that tri-state, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, organizations who came. So we had 2 panels where they spoke about the work they were doing, as well as the chapters in Philadelphia, Mu Omega and Zeta Iota. They spoke about their work. There was Brother Damar Stevens from Zeta Iota, and we had Anthony Jones from Mu Omega. They talk about their program. But in this picture here, this is a neophyte that just crossed the week before,
Wow.
from college. He actually crossed in Rochester, University of Rochester College. But, his mother reached out to me, and he lived in New Jersey. I invited him to the inaugural conference. And so, and here we see, this is a brother who was an elected official. He's from Cheney, Brother Ebony Davis. He was a city councilman in New Jersey. He also provides for a proclamation, but this is what we did. We provided free ties for every young man that attended the conference, and we showed them how to tie ties. And so this is an example of this. This was He was 1 week old in Omega land, and he came out. And we provided him with uplift and provided him with the opportunity to learn how to tie, and he
What
left
a
with that
wonderful
tie as a
experience.
gift.
Yeah.
And his
I
name
think
was
there's a
Brother Will Robeson.
Robeson. Good name. Let's go to the next. Yeah, there we go.
And this is a picture of the ballroom that we filled for that first inaugural conference, Fatherhood Mentoring Conference in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So you could just get a sense of how packed the room was on that particular day.
Yes, yes. Let's bring Jeffrey Diggs back in. Jeff, hey. Let's go back to that picture there, that last one with President Obama. Go ahead. There we go. Hey, boys, you
Yes.
recognize that picture?
I recognize that picture. That was a great moment in Omega where we had a sitting president take time from his duties in the Oval Office to visit us through our centennial celebration in Washington, D.C. So this is actually the convention center in Washington, D.C., where he was provided, transport by the Secret Service through the tunnels and passageway that they have so that he can meet with us just for a few minutes to show his support for the work that we were doing under the Fatherhood Initiative, Mentoring Initiative. And so this was the type of president we had, that he took time out of his Oval Office day to come visit us at our centennial, to meet our leadership and encourage us to continue to work.
Wonderful experience, and a shout out to Robert Fairchild, and Tybee Boone and Earl Wilson, and
Yes,
I see Dr. Ray
Andrew Ray,
39.
yeah, 39. Then you have Tony Knox, brother Graham, he did Graham, brother Tony Knox. You had all the leadership, the
Man,
who's
what a
who.
beautiful picture. Jeff, what'd you think?
This was absolutely great. I wasn't in the room, but I was definitely there at that celebration um, that year, and it was just wonderful. But I wanted to say that with some of my studies, and you know with brother boys, your energy is something to behold, because it's continue to flow. That passion of yours has infected us to want to get out and to continue to work with our youngsters. We're and the thing of it is, with kids working with these boys, there is never immediate. You're just planting seeds. Um, and down the road, you know, guaranteed that these youngsters going to pop up one day and just, thank you for that passion, that energy that you transfer to these youngsters. Because you're going to see them. It's not a matter of you just going to see them. You're going to see them, and you're taking them some energy. Let them know that they're important. Um,
And I would agree. And what I found in my travels, and I'm sure you have too, is that you know our chapters and our brothers are engaging young men and even young women in many different type of programs. I've been to Pennsylvania where they have young men in experimental aircrafts. Flying. They have flying programs in Pennsylvania. I've been here in New York City where we do a phenomenal Black college tour for going on 40 years. And
Wow.
every year, students who went on a tour come back as accepted college students, saying how this tour, it wasn't just going on a tour for a week, but it was 6 weeks of workshops leading up to that, made a difference in their life. And that many of them have joined Omega, many of them have joined other Divine Nine organizations. But it's important that they see that. I mean, we sponsor, many of our chapters sponsor little league teams, football teams, sports teams, and those brothers are there every week, and they have practice. They're on the field. They're coaching. They not only just their sports, they become their life coach, their mentors. This is what we do. This is what it's about. It's not about awards or pay, but it's about serving. and lifting as we climb those in our community who need our assistance. And so it doesn't stop. But there we provide scholarships. We do the talent hunt, we do the mandated programs. But again, this is what we have to do. We have to be, fill that gap and that need in the community. And that's what Omegas are doing, particularly those in the fatherhood and mentoring chapters and positions and leadership like yourself.
Man, I tell you, this has been a great segment, and we're coming toward the end here down the home stretch. We're just honored to have you, Brother Boyce, on the front lines and for setting the tone. Last remarks, Brother Boyce, as we come to a close. I do want to talk about this picture, but go ahead. You got 30 seconds.
So again, I want to thank you guys for continuing to build and innovate, in the fatherhood and mentoring trail that, I was fortunate to be tapped with starting here in the second district. But I believe the best is yet to come, and I will continue to support you and the committee and any work that's done, because again, there are many minds that we have not touched yet, and we have a place to do so, and we have a role to do. And I just thankful that you would even be thinking of me in this time to come speak on this podcast, and I'm honored. But like I said, together we can do more than we can do alone, and I'm grateful to you and the committee for continuing the work.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Well, as we close this segment, I'd like to share a picture from the Williams, my homestead in Wilmington, North Carolina. That's my dad to the left, and my mother passed away about 20 months ago in June. And so I make it my business to go spend some time with my father, and I did that this past weekend. And I've been passing by this picture a good portion of my adult life, and it's a picture of cotton fields. And so I asked my dad to tell me about that picture. What's the significance of the picture? And he was saying, my mother, had 6 aunts and 1 uncle. And when they were 9, 10, 11, and 12, the whole family picked cotton and picked tobacco. And so it was a significant moment, Black history moment. Enslavement wasn't a training ground for job placement. It was an institution that was horrific. My ancestors, your ancestors, suffered under horrific, harsh conditions. We were treated as property, as my dad said, 3/5 of a person, and survived American history. My dad stated that, again, we had no rights and we were just property. So my family and your family and young people, when people ask you about why Black History Month, don't get angry. Don't brush it off. Respond like this. Which is it you want me to do? Stop talking about Black history? Or will you start recognizing and incorporating Black history as American history? I tell them that Black history exists because it has always been historically underrepresented, distorted, marginalized, and too often deemed insignificant, misrepresented, alternative facts, and flat out lies, and just not worth discussing as part of American history at all levels. So despite the miseducation, the attacks and assault on African American, enslavement, again, wasn't a training ground for job placement. And I tell my young people that it's their turn to pursue being history makers for their family, bridge builders, legacy builders. Our students are bright, they are smart, they are intelligent, they are gifted. Every generation must pursue their education with the passion of our ancestors. And so with that, my friends, what you need to know is that from a legacy of greatness and how it is now your turn to overcome. Young people, you can be history makers in a positive way. What you need to know is no American history No American history is without Black history, and we celebrate it every day of your life. And to let others see the good put into action is what everybody needs to see and embrace. And with that, hey guys, I got announced here on Cues on the Move, the 7th season. Because of the journey, boys, I've written a book. And I think our chapter of Omega and Fatherhood Mentoring is in chapter 11. And so with that, I'm going to pass the mic for Jeff Diggs on his closing remarks. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Jeff.
Yes, and I just want to close with just something that you had said. So because this is Black History Month and the work that we do with our youngsters, I'd ask everybody who hears this, all of the adults, to go to at least one child and let them know that they're smart, they're intelligent, they're worthy. Feed them these positive seeds, and watch them grow. But to take one child and just share just a few words of their greatness. And that's my closing remark. That's what I would wish for everyone. And thank brother, our good brother, Boyce, for coming on tonight and sharing his endeavors and how his endeavors had gone to the place now where his work is a mandated international program.
And with that, we see you next Tuesday on Cues on the Move.
Good night, everyone.